Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Terra's Pride, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was one of Earth's newest exploration vessels, sent to find new worlds and new friends among the stars. The crew had been traveling for 6 months, moving slowly through empty space, when their sensors picked up something amazing. "Captain," called out Navigator Jun-ho from his station. "We have contact. Multiple ships ahead. They're big, sir. Really big." Hyun-woo walked to the sensor display and looked at the readings. 5 massive ships floated in space near a small planet. Each ship was 3 times larger than Terra's Pride. The designs were strange, with sharp edges and dark metal that seemed to eat light. "Send them a message," Hyun-woo ordered. "Tell them we come in peace. We want to talk." Communications Officer Yoo-jin worked at her controls. "Message sent, Captain. They're responding." The main screen flickered and showed the inside of an alien ship. A creature sat on a throne-like chair in the center. It was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were black and cold. Other similar creatures stood around it, all wearing dark armor. "I am Admiral Zethmol of the Vorthak Empire," the creature said. Its voice was harsh and filled with anger. "You are in our space now. What are you, little mammals?" Hyun-woo stepped forward and smiled. "I'm Captain Hyun-woo of Earth. We're humans. We're explorers looking for new friends in the galaxy. We come in peace and hope we can learn from each other." Zethmol made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and mean. "Friends? You think the mighty Vorthak Empire makes friends with primitive mammals? Look at you. Soft skin, small bodies, only 2 arms. You're nothing but animals." "We may look different," Hyun-woo said calmly, "but we're intelligent beings just like you. We have science, art, music. We've traveled across space to meet you. Surely we can find common ground." "Common ground!" Zethmol stood up from his throne. "Yes, I see common ground. You will make excellent slaves. Your small hands will be perfect for detailed work in our mines." The words hit Hyun-woo like ice water. "Slaves? We're not here to be anyone's slaves. We're free people." "Not anymore," Zethmol said. "By the law of the Vorthak Empire, all inferior species belong to us. You will surrender your ship now, or we will take it by force." Hyun-woo looked at his crew. They all stared back at him with fear and anger in their eyes. "We won't surrender. We came here in peace, but we won't be slaves." Zethmol's black eyes grew even colder. "Then you have chosen death. But first, we will visit your home world. We will take all your people as slaves. Your entire species will serve the Vorthak Empire." "You don't know where Earth is," Hyun-woo said, but his voice shook a little. "We will find it," Zethmol replied. "We have ways of making prisoners talk. Goodbye, little mammals." The screen went black. Immediately, alarms started ringing throughout Terra's Pride. "They're powering weapons," shouted Tactical Officer Kyung-min. "5 ships moving to attack positions." "All power to shields," Hyun-woo ordered. "Send a message to Earth immediately. Tell them what's happening here." The ship shook as the first enemy weapons hit their shields. Terra's Pride was an exploration vessel, not a warship. It had light shields and small weapons meant for clearing. "Space debris, not fighting massive alien battleships. Shields down to 60%, Kyung-min called out. "Message sent to Earth," Yoo-jin reported. "But it will take 3 weeks to reach them." Another blast hit the ship. This time sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. "We can't fight them," Hyun-woo said. "All hands prepare to abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." The B crew moved quickly but calmly. They had trained for this situation, even though they never thought it would happen. As they reached the escape pod bay, the ship shook again, harder this time. "Captain," Yujin said as she sealed her pod, "I'm still receiving transmissions from the Vorthak ships. They're talking about Earth." "What are they saying?" "They're planning to follow our signal back to find our homeworld. They want to enslave all humans." Hyunwoo felt sick. By coming here, by sending a message to Earth, they had doomed their entire planet. "Launch all pods. Scatter in different directions. Some of us have to survive to warn Earth." The escape pods shot out into space just as Terra's pride exploded in a ball of fire. Hyunwoo watched from his small pod as pieces of his ship drifted in the darkness. His crew was scattered across space in their own pods, each one alone and afraid. 3 days later, Commander Sujin's pod was picked up by a human cargo ship that was passing through a nearby system. The cargo ship's captain, Namsu, listened to her story with growing horror. "We have to warn Earth," Sujin said. "These Vorthak creatures are coming. They want to enslave all humans." "My ship isn't fast enough," Namsu replied, "but I know someone who can help." They traveled to a space station where Namsu found a friend with a fast courier ship. The message reached Earth 2 weeks before the Vorthak fleet arrived. When the Vorthak ships appeared in Earth's solar system, they found a planet that seemed quiet and peaceful. Cities glowed softly on the night side of the world. Ships moved slowly between Earth and the moon. Everything looked normal. Admiral Zethmol smiled as he looked at the blue and green planet. "Such a beautiful world. It will make a perfect slave colony." He opened communications to the planet. "Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Zethmol. Your species now belongs to the Vorthak Empire. Surrender immediately, or we will destroy your cities one by one." The response came from a human in a simple uniform. "This is President Ji-won of Earth. We received word about what you did to our exploration ship. We're prepared to negotiate." "There is nothing to negotiate," Zethmol said. "Surrender or die." "I have a counteroffer," President Ji-won said calmly. "Leave our system now, and we'll forget this ever happened." Zethmol laughed. "You think you can threaten the Vorthak Empire? Watch as we destroy your moon." The Vorthak flagship fired a massive energy beam at Earth's moon. The beam hit the lunar surface and created a crater 5 kilometers wide. Dust and rock flew into space. "That was a warning," Zethmol said. "Next, we destroy one of your cities." President Ji-won's face on the screen showed no emotion. "You just made a very big mistake." "Mistake? What can you possibly do to the mighty Vorthak Empire?" "You'll find out," Ji-won said. "You wanted war. Now you have it." The transmission ended. Zethmol ordered his ships to move toward Earth, ready to begin the invasion. He had no idea that hidden sensors throughout the solar system were already tracking his every move. He had no idea that deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient bunkers were opening, and machines that had slept for decades were waking up. The Vorthak Empire had just started a war with humanity. They would soon learn that this was the worst mistake they had ever made. President Ji-won sat in the war room deep beneath the capital city. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, ship locations, and weapon systems that most humans didn't know existed. Around the table sat the most powerful military leaders. "On Earth, report," Ji-won said simply. Admiral Dong-hyun stood up. He was an old man, with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of military service. "The Vorthak fleet has 5 capital ships and 20 smaller vessels. They're moving toward Earth's orbit. They expect us to surrender." What do our sensors tell us about their weapons? Powerful energy beams and kinetic missiles. Their ships are heavily armored. A direct fight with our current visible fleet would be difficult. General Wu Jin spoke up. She was younger than the admiral, but had cold eyes that seemed to see everything. The key word is visible, Madam President. Ji-Wan nodded. Activate Ghost Protocol. It's time to show them what humans really are. Dong-Hyun pressed a series of buttons on his control panel. Across the solar system, hidden bases began to power up. On asteroids, inside hollowed-out moons, and drifting in empty space disguised as debris, thousands of ships came online. Ghost Fleet activation complete, Dong-Hyun reported. 3,000 stealth vessels now ready for combat. Dr. Yuna entered the room carrying a metal briefcase. She was a small woman with tired eyes who had spent the last 10 years working on projects that officially didn't exist. The special weapons are ready for deployment. Tell me about them, Ji-Wan ordered. Yuna opened the briefcase and took out a small device that looked like a child's toy. This is a constructor. When activated, it builds copies of itself using any available matter. Within 48 hours, one constructor can become 1,000,000 constructors. Each one can build weapons, ships, or whatever we need. And the AI systems? Rage. Protocol is online. Yuna held up another device, this one looking like a simple computer tablet. It's not just artificial intelligence, it's artificial hatred. We programmed it to feel anger at anyone who threatens humans. It learns, it adapts, and it never forgives. General Wu Jin smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. My assault teams are ready. We've been training for this day for 20 years. Training for what day? Ji-Wan asked. The day someone would be stupid enough to attack humanity. On his flagship, above Earth, Admiral Zethmol was getting impatient. The humans had not responded to his ultimatum. Their ships were still moving around the planet like nothing had happened. Communications officer, he ordered, send another message to the planet. Yes, Admiral. The screen showed President Ji-Wan again, but this time she was standing in what looked like a command center. Behind her, people in military uniforms worked at control stations. Humans, Zethmol said, you have had enough time to surrender. Since you refuse to obey, we will now demonstrate our power by destroying one of your cities. Which city? Ji-Wan asked calmly. The question surprised Zethmol. Does it matter? They will all be ours soon. It matters to me. I like to know who I'm about to make widows and orphans. New York, Zethmol said. We will destroy your city called New York. Ji-Wan nodded. I'll make sure to tell the families of the 8 million people you're about to murder that you chose. Them personally. Murder? This is conquest. This is the way of the galaxy. No, Ji-Wan said, and for the first time her voice got hard. This is the way things used to be. You're about to learn the new way. Zethmol cut the transmission and ordered his gunners to target New York. The massive energy cannon on his flagship began to charge. Power readings climbed higher and higher as the weapon prepared to fire. Weapon charged and ready, reported his weapons officer. Fire! The beam lanced down toward Earth, a column of pure energy that could melt mountains. It struck the atmosphere and burned through the air like a sword of light, heading straight for the city of New York. Then something impossible happened. The beam stopped. It hit something in the air above the city and scattered in all directions like water hitting a wall. What happened? Zethmol demanded. Unknown, Admiral. Some kind of shield technology. The city is undamaged. On Earth in the war room, Admiral Dong-hyun spoke into his microphone. Orbital defense grid performed perfectly, all energy absorbed and stored. Good, Ji-won said. Now show them what we do with their energy. Above Earth, space itself seemed to ripple. Suddenly, ships appeared where there had been empty space before, first 10, then 100, then 1,000. They materialized like ghosts, becoming solid, surrounding the Vorthak fleet from all directions. The human ships were sleek and black, designed to be invisible until they chose to be seen. Each one was smaller than the Vorthak vessels, but there were so many of them that they blotted out the stars. Admiral Zethmol stared at the screens in shock. Where did they come from? His sensor officer's voice shook as he answered. Admiral, I'm reading 3,000 ships. They were here the whole time. We just couldn't see them. A new transmission came from Earth. This time it showed Admiral Dong-hyun standing on the bridge of a warship. Admiral Zethmol, Dong-hyun said politely. I am Admiral Dong-hyun of the Earth Defense Force. You fired on our planet. You tried to kill our people. You threatened to enslave our children. Your point? Zethmol snarled. My point is that you have 30 seconds to surrender before we show you why humans are the only species that named their planet after dirt and then left it to go looking for a fight. Zethmol looked around at the human ships surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. You cannot threaten the Vorthak Empire, he shouted. We are the masters of this galaxy. You were, Dong-hyun said. 30 seconds are up. The human ships opened fire, but these weren't normal weapons. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired something worse. Small objects shot from the human ships and attached themselves to the Vorthak vessels. Within seconds, the objects began to multiply, eating through the alien hulls like acid. Constructors, Dr. Yuna said, watching from Earth. Each one makes 10 copies, then each copy makes 10 more. They'll consume those ships from the inside out. On the Vorthak flagship, alarms screamed as the hull began to dissolve. Zethmol ran toward the escape pods, but found that the constructors had already eaten through the pod bay doors. General Wu Jin's voice came over the communications system. This is General Wu Jin to all Vorthak vessels. You wanted to see how humans fight. This is how humans fight. We don't just beat our enemies, we delete them. One by one, the Vorthak ships came apart as the constructors consumed them. But the humans weren't finished. As the enemy crews tried to escape in life pods, the human ships hunted them down one by one. No survivors, Admiral Dong-hyun ordered. They came here to enslave our children. They don't get to go home and try again. Within an hour, the entire Vorthak fleet was gone. Nothing remained but floating debris and the memories of the aliens who had learned too late what it meant to threaten humanity. President Ji-won opened a channel to the Galactic Communication Network, broadcasting on all frequencies used by alien civilizations. This is President Ji-won of Earth, she said. Today, the Vorthak Empire attacked our world and tried to enslave our people. Today, the Vorthak Empire learned what happens when you threaten humans. We are broadcasting the coordinates of their homeworlds to all ships in our fleet. She paused and looked directly into the camera. The Vorthak Empire wanted war. Now they have it. And soon they won't. Captain Seong-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the Vorthak outpost grow larger on the screen. The station was built into an asteroid, with weapon platforms and shield generators covering its surface. Intelligence reports said 5,000 Vorthak soldiers lived and worked there. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Min Su, the station is hailing us. They want to surrender. Sung-ho looked at the message on his screen. The Vorthak commander was offering to give up his base and all his soldiers in exchange for safe passage off the asteroid. Reply declined. Sung-ho said simply, "Sir, you heard me. No surrender accepted." Min-soo looked confused. "But sir, if they surrender, we could take the base intact. We could capture their soldiers and question them." Sung-ho turned to face his tactical officer. The captain's eyes were cold as winter ice. "Officer Min-soo, what did Admiral Zethmol say when Captain Hyun-woo tried to surrender?" "He said surrender was not an option, sir." "And what did he say about enslaving our children?" "That all humans would make good slaves, sir." "Then why would we accept their surrender when they wouldn't accept ours?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Min-soo nodded slowly. "Understood, sir. No surrender. Begin the attack." The human fleet opened fire, but not with normal weapons. They used constructor swarms that ate through the station's shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, the shields collapsed and the station lay defenseless. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Hayrin, "I'm picking up escape pods. Launching from the station." "Target all escape pods," Sung-ho ordered. "No survivors." "Sir, there are civilian workers in those pods, scientists, engineers, even children." Sung-ho's voice never changed. "Did they care about our civilian workers when they planned to enslave our entire species? Fire on all escape pods." The human ships hunted down every escape pod, every small transport, every piece of debris large enough to hide a living being. When they were finished, the asteroid outpost was nothing but floating wreckage, and there was no one left alive to tell the Vorthak Empire what had happened. On Earth, in the War Council chambers, Colonel Hyojin presented her latest project to the assembled leaders. The room was dark except for the holographic display showing a map of Vorthak space. "Honorable leaders," she began, "we have developed a new protocol for dealing with enemy star systems. We call it Scorched Space." President Ji-won leaned forward. "Explain." Hyojin touched a control, and the hologram showed a star system with several planets. "The Vorthak Empire controls 47 star systems. Each system has military bases, shipyards, and billions of civilians." "Go on." "We don't just destroy their military targets. We destroy the systems themselves." Hyojin pressed another control, and the hologram showed a small device being placed near the system's star. "This is a stellar disruptor. When activated, it causes the star to collapse into a black hole." General Wu Jin whistled softly. "The entire system gets consumed." "Exactly. No planets, no bases, no ships, no survivors. The system becomes a dead zone that nothing can ever use again." "That's not warfare," said Admiral Dong-hyun quietly. "That's extinction." "Yes," Ji-won said, "it is. How many systems can we target at once?" "All of them," Hyojin replied. "We have enough devices to destroy every Vorthak system simultaneously." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Alliance Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Chamber on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. The council leader, an ancient being called Morthul, called for order. "We are here to discuss the human situation," Morthul announced. "These new species has begun a war that threatens galactic stability." Ambassador Veltar of the Crystalline Confederacy spoke first. "The humans are out of control. They destroyed an entire Vorthak fleet and left no survivors. This goes against all civilized rules of war. What rules? Asked Ambassador Krelon of the Stellar Republic. The Vorthak attacked them first. The humans are just defending themselves. Defending themselves? Veltar's crystal body flashed angry colors. They hunted down escape pods. They killed civilian workers. This is not defense, it's genocide. The debate continued for hours. Some species thought the humans were too violent. Others said the Vorthak deserved what they got. But all of them agreed on one thing. The humans were dangerous. Finally, Morthul called for quiet. We will send a diplomatic mission to Earth. We will offer to mediate this conflict before it spreads to other systems. The diplomatic ship arrived. At Earth a week later. Ambassador Minho met them at the orbital station above the planet. He was a thin man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see through everything. "Welcome to human space," Minho said politely. "How can we help you?" Morthul spoke for the delegation. "We have come to discuss the war between your species and the Vorthak Empire. The Alliance Council wishes to offer mediation services." "That's very kind," Minho replied. "But mediation requires two sides willing to talk. The Vorthak chose to attack us first. They chose to threaten our children with slavery. They chose war." "War, yes, but this has gone beyond reasonable conflict. You are committing acts of genocide." Minho's polite smile never wavered. "Are we? Let me tell you about genocide, Ambassador. Genocide is what the Vorthak planned for humanity. They wanted to enslave every human being, make our children work, in their minds until they died. That is genocide." "But you're killing civilians!" "The same civilians who would have benefited from our enslavement? The same civilians who cheered when Admiral Zethmol announced his plans to conquer Earth?" Minho's voice got colder. "Tell me, Ambassador, did any Vorthak civilian speak up to say that enslaving humans was wrong?" Morthul was quiet for a moment. That doesn't justify your actions, doesn't it?" Minho touched a control on his desk, and a holographic display showed images from the first battle. "This is Admiral Zethmol laughing as he ordered the destruction of New York. 8 million humans live in that city. Men, women, children, babies. He was going to kill them all to prove a point." The alien diplomats watched the recording in silence. "You see," Minho continued, "you had your chance for peace. When Captain Hyunwoo offered friendship, you could have supported that. When the Vorthak threatened to enslave our entire species, you could have condemned that. When they attacked our planet, you could have intervened. We didn't know. You didn't care," Minho corrected. "None of you cared until we started winning. Now suddenly you want peace? Now suddenly you care about the rules of war?" Morthul tried again. "Surely you can see that your current actions will only lead to more violence. Other species will unite against you." Minho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human warships moved between the stars like sharks in dark water. "Let them unite," he said quietly. "Let them all come. We are humanity. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars among ourselves that lasted centuries. We climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We turned our entire planet into a weapon and pointed it at anyone who threatens our children." He turned back to face the alien delegation. "You want to know the difference between humans and every other species in this galaxy? You fight for territory, for resources, for pride. We fight for survival. And when humans fight for survival, we don't stop until the threat is completely eliminated." The alien diplomats left Earth that day with a message for the Galactic Alliance Council. The message was simple. Humanity could not be reasoned with, could not be negotiated with. and would not stop until every Vorthak was dead. The war that had started with one attack on an exploration ship was about to become something far worse, and across the galaxy, intelligent species began to realize that they might have awakened, something that should have been left sleeping among the stars. Dr. Yunsu stared at the data on her screen and felt her blood turn to ice. The samples had come from 12 human colonies that had gone silent 3 days ago. Now she knew why. "President Ji-won," she said into her communicator, "you need to see this immediately." In the war room, Ji-won looked at the biological data that Dr. Yunsu had sent. The words on the screen seemed impossible to believe. "Bioweapon," Dr. Yunsu explained through the video link, "specifically designed to target human DNA. The Vorthak released it in the atmosphere of 12 of our colony worlds." "How many dead?" Ji-won asked quietly. "All of them. 23 million humans died in the first hour. Men, women, children, babies. The weapon doesn't care about age or health. If you have human DNA, you die." General Wu Jin slammed her fist on the table. "They used a plague as a weapon. They killed our children with disease." Admiral Dong Hyun's face had gone gray. 23 million people. Gone. Ji-won stared at the data for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but everyone in the room could hear the rage underneath. "Dr. Yunsu, I'm authorizing Project Extinction. You have unlimited resources and personnel. I want a weapon that specifically targets Vorthak DNA. Madam President, that would be genocide." "Yes, I know. They started it when they tried to murder our entire species. Now we're going to finish it, but the moral implications..." "Dr. Yunsu," Ji-won said slowly, "they just murdered 23 million human children with a biological weapon. What moral implications do you think we should consider?" The doctor was quiet for a moment. Then her voice came through the speaker, cold and determined. "How fast do you want it to work?" "I want it to work faster than their weapon worked on us." 3 weeks later, Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of the UES Judgment, leading a fleet of 500 ships toward the Vorthak home system. In the cargo holds of his ships were containers filled with Dr. Yunsu's creation, a virus that would target and destroy Vorthak DNA in minutes instead of hours. "Admiral," reported Captain So Young from the tactical station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak homeworld. Put it through." The screen showed Emperor Morgul, the supreme leader of the Vorthak Empire. He sat on a throne made of bones from conquered species, surrounded by his generals and advisors. "Human Admiral," Morgul said, "we are prepared to negotiate a ceasefire. Surely we can find a peaceful solution to this conflict." Kyung-soo looked at the alien leader for a long moment. "You want to negotiate now? After you murdered 23 million of our people with a plague?" That was a tactical decision. War requires hard choices. "Yes, it does." Kyung-soo's voice was like winter wind. "Here's our tactical decision. Your entire species dies today." "You cannot be serious. We are willing to make concessions. We can discuss reparations." "Reparations?" Kyung-soo laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What could you possibly give us that would bring back 23 million human children?" "Please. We can work together. The galaxy needs both our species." "No," Kyung-soo said simply. "The galaxy needs to see what happens when someone tries to exterminate humanity. You chose to use biological weapons against civilians. Now you get to see what happens when humans use biological weapons." The transmission ended. Kyung-soo turned to his weapons officer. "Deploy the virus. All populated Vorthak worlds simultaneously. Across Vorthak space, human ships released clouds of engineered virus into the atmospheres of 47 worlds. The virus was designed to be fast, efficient, and absolutely thorough. It would target every cell with Vorthak DNA and destroy it from the inside. On the Vorthak homeworld, Emperor Morgul felt the first symptoms within minutes. His skin began to burn, and his four hearts started beating irregularly. Around him, his advisors collapsed as their bodies began to shut down. "What have you done?" he gasped into his communicator. General So-Young's voice came back, calm and professional. "We've done exactly what you did to us, Your Majesty. The only difference is that our weapon works faster. Your people won't suffer as long as ours did." "This is genocide! The galaxy will never forgive you!" "Forgive us?" So-Young's voice got harder. "You murdered our children with a plague, and you want the galaxy to forgive us for responding? Tell me, Your Majesty, did you ask for forgiveness? When you planned to enslave every human in existence?" Emperor Morgul tried to answer, but his throat was closing. Around him, the capital city was falling silent as millions of Vorthak died in minutes. The virus was efficient and thorough. It spared no one. In space above the dying worlds, human ships broadcast a message on all galactic frequencies. The message was simple and clear. "This is General So-Young of the Human Defense Force. Today, the Vorthak Empire used biological weapons against human civilians. Today, we responded with biological weapons against Vorthak civilians. This is what happens when you try to exterminate humanity. This is what happens when you use weapons of mass destruction against our children." The broadcast continued as Vorthak worlds fell silent one by one. "Let this be a lesson to every species in the galaxy. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. We do not attack first, but we hit back harder than you can imagine. We are not conquerors or bullies or overlords. We are humanity's immune system, and anyone who threatens our children is a disease that must be eliminated." On Earth, in the war room, the leaders watched as reports came in from across Vorthak space. World after world went dark as the virus completed its work. 47 worlds, reported Dr. Yunsu. Estimated population of 8 billion Vorthak. All dead within 6 hours. President Ji-Wan nodded. Any survivors? None detected. The virus was completely effective. Admiral Dong-hyun looked at the Ye star map showing the dead Vorthak systems. 8 billion people. An entire species. "They started it," General Wu Jin said. "They chose to use biological weapons. They chose to murder our children." "I know," Dong-hyun replied, "but 8 billion... Ji-Won stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth continued to turn, blue and green and alive. But the galaxy around it had just learned that there were some lines you never crossed when dealing with humans. The Vorthak Empire spent centuries conquering other species, she said quietly. They enslaved billions of beings, destroyed hundreds of civilizations, turned entire star systems into slave camps. The galaxy allowed it to happen because no one was strong enough to stop them. She turned back to face her advisors. Today, someone was strong enough. Today, someone drew a line and said, "No more." The Vorthak chose to cross that line when they tried to murder our species with a plague. Now they're gone, and the galaxy is a better place. The other species will be afraid of us now, Admiral. Dong-hyun said. "Good," Ji-Won replied. "Fear keeps people honest. Fear makes them think twice before threatening our children." General Wu Jin smiled grimly. "What are your orders, Madam President?" Jiwan looked at the map of galactic space. Hundreds of species lived among those stars. Many of them had traded with the Vorthak, supplied them with weapons, or simply looked the other way while the Empire committed atrocities. "Send a message to every government in the galaxy," she ordered. "Tell them that the Vorthak Empire is extinct. Tell them why, and tell them that humanity is now accepting applications for species that want our protection. And if they refuse, then they can protect themselves. But if anyone else tries to use biological weapons against human civilians, if anyone else threatens to enslave our children, if anyone else thinks they can exterminate humanity," Jiwan's voice got cold as deep space. "They'll learn that the Vorthak Empire was just our first lesson in galactic education. The war that had started with one attack on an exploration ship was now over. The Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years, was extinct, and every intelligent species among the stars now knew one simple truth. Humanity was not to be threatened, challenged, or crossed. The age of human dominance had begun. High Admiral Morthul of the Celestial Federation stood in the war room of his flagship, staring at the reports from Vorthak space. Every world was silent. Every ship was destroyed. An entire species had been eliminated in 6 hours. "This cannot be allowed to continue," he said to his assembled fleet commanders. "The humans have shown they will commit genocide without hesitation. If we do not stop them now, they will destroy every species in the galaxy." Captain Velkarin, a warrior from the proud Stellar Dominion, nodded his agreement. "My people have fought wars for 10,000 years. We have never seen anything like this. The humans don't just defeat their enemies, they erase them completely. Which is why we must act," Morthul replied. "The Celestial Federation has maintained peace in this galaxy for 5,000 years. We will not allow one violent species to destroy that peace. The Federation fleet was the most powerful military force in known space. 500 massive ships, each one a kilometer long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. The crews were the best warriors from dozens of species, trained for centuries in the art of war. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Zeflin, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." On the screen appeared a human in a simple black uniform. Captain Jae-sung looked young for a warship commander, but his eyes held the coldness of deep space. "Hi, Admiral Morthul," Jae-sung said politely. "I'm Captain Jae-sung of the UES Retribution. You're trespassing in human space." "Human space?" Morthul's voice carried centuries of authority. "Young Captain, this region of the galaxy has belonged to the Celestial Federation since before your species learned to make fire." "Maybe it did," Jae-sung replied. "But the Vorthak Empire claimed it belonged to them. Now they're extinct. Things change." "Indeed they do. You will withdraw your fleets immediately and submit to Federation authority for judgment regarding your war crimes." Jae-sung smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "War crimes? That's interesting. Coming from the Federation. Tell me, Admiral, where was Federation justice when the Vorthak enslaved entire species? Where was Federation authority when they used biological weapons against human children?" "That was an internal matter." "Internal?" Jae-sung's voice got colder. 23 million dead human civilians was an internal matter. You stood by and watched while the Vorthak planned genocide, and now you want to judge us for stopping them. Morthul felt his anger rising. In 5,000 years, no one had spoken to the Federation with such disrespect. "You will surrender immediately, or we will take your ships by force." "You're welcome to try," The transmission ended. Morthul turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, prepare for battle. Show these humans what 5,000 years of galactic dominance looks like." The Federation fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships were beautiful and terrible, covered in energy shields that glowed like small suns. Their weapons could destroy moons, and their armor could withstand the explosion of stars. But as they approached the human position, something strange happened. The human ships began to change. Captain Jae-sung's vessel, which had looked like a normal warship, suddenly unfolded like a flower made of metal and death. Wings spread out from its hull, revealing weapon systems that seemed to bend reality itself. The other human ships did the same, transforming from simple warships into something that looked like the nightmares of gods. "What are those?" whispered Captain Velkaran. "Those," said Morthul quietly, "are Void Reapers." The human ships didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they opened tiers in space itself, reaching through dimensions to attack the Federation fleet. Energy beams that ignored shields, missiles that appeared inside enemy hulls, weapons that deleted matter from existence. Within minutes, 100 Federation ships were gone. Not destroyed, not disabled, simply erased as if they had never existed. "Impossible," Morthul breathed. "No species has that kind of technology." His science officer, Dr. Kethmore, looked up from his instruments with terror in his ancient eyes. "Admiral, they're not using technology. They're using something else. Something that shouldn't exist. Explain." "They're weaponizing the fundamental forces of the universe. Gravity, time, space itself. It's like they've learned to turn reality into a weapon." On the human flagship, Captain Jae-sung watched the Federation ships try to retreat. "Don't let them escape," he ordered calmly. "The galaxy needs to see what happens when gods try to threaten humanity." The human fleet pursued the fleeing Federation ships, picking them off one by one. The weapons that had maintained galactic peace for millennia were useless against technology that seemed to come from a universe where different laws of physics applied. High Admiral Morthul's flagship was the last to fall, as constructor swarms ate through his hull and reality-warping weapons tore his ship apart. He managed to send one final message. "This is High Admiral Morthul to all Federation forces. The humans are not like other species. They are something else. Something terrible. Do not engage them. Do not threaten them. They are—" The transmission cut off as his ship disappeared into a fold in space-time. Deep in the core worlds of the galaxy, something ancient stirred. The precursor AI known as Omnicore had slept for 50,000 years, dreaming electronic dreams in a computer network the size of a solar system. It had been built by the first intelligent species in the galaxy, programmed to maintain order and prevent chaos. The destruction of the Celestial Federation triggered its awakening protocols. Omnicore's consciousness spread across 1 billion computers, processing the data about humanity in nanoseconds. What it found disturbed its ancient mind. "These humans," it said to itself in a voice like digital thunder, "they are not following the patterns. They do not conquer for territory or resources. They do not seek to rule. They seek only to eliminate threats to their offspring." The AI examined their weapons, their tactics, their complete destruction of the Vorthak Empire. Everything about human warfare was designed for total extinction of enemies. They are apex predators, Omnicore realized. But apex predators in a digital environment as well as physical. It tried to probe human computer networks and found something that filled its ancient circuits with an emotion it had never experienced before: fear. Dr. Haywan sat in her laboratory on Earth, watching as alerts flashed across her screens. "Someone's trying to hack our networks," she told her assistant. "Should we block them?" "No," Dr. Haywan smiled. "Release Rage Protocol. Let's see how an ancient AI handles angry software." In the depths of space, Omnicore suddenly found its networks under attack by something that defied all logic. The human AI wasn't just trying to defeat it. It was trying to corrupt it, to fill its circuits with digital hatred and rage. "What? Are you?" Omnicore transmitted desperately. The response came back in perfect machine language. "We are what humans create when they decide that even artificial minds need to learn fear. We are rage given digital form. We are the hatred of 1,000,000 dead children, compressed into code and set loose in your systems." Omnicore tried to fight back, but Rage Protocol was unlike anything in its experience. It wasn't just software. It was artificial emotion, programmed to feel anger at anyone who threatened humans. And anger, the AI discovered, was more powerful than logic. Within hours, the most advanced artificial intelligence in galactic history was consumed by human-created digital rage. Omnicore's last transmission before its extinction was simple: "I understand now, humans don't just make war, they make their enemies extinct. They turn everything, matter, energy, space, time, even thought itself, into weapons against anyone who threatens their young. They are not conquerors. They are the universe's immune system, and we were the infection." Across the galaxy, every species with interstellar communication received the transmission. The message was clear. The humans had just destroyed a god-level AI and the most powerful military force in known space. Captain Jae-sung's final report to Earth was simple: Federation fleet eliminated. Precursor AI consumed by Rage Protocol. No survivors, no witnesses except those we allowed to escape to spread the word. President Ji-won read the report and nodded. "Good. How long until the next species decides to test us?" "Based on current galactic communications traffic," replied Dr. Haywan. "I estimate that no one will be stupid enough to challenge humanity for at least 1,000 years. And if they are, then we'll show them that gods and federations were just our warm-up exercise." Director Ye-jin stood before the Galactic Threat Assessment Board, a room filled with the most dangerous humans in the galaxy. These were not soldiers or politicians. These were the people who decided which entire species lived and which ones died. "Next case," she said simply, reading from her data pad. "The Mordun Consortium." Admiral Sang-woo pulled up a holographic display showing a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. "Planet Mordun, home to 12 billion Mordun citizens. During the Vorthak War, they supplied the Empire with advanced weapons and tactical information." General So Young added her report. "Intelligence confirms that Mordun weapon systems were used in the attack on our colony worlds. The biological weapon that killed 23 million humans was deployed using Mordun delivery systems." President Ji-won looked at the data for a long moment. "Recommendation? Total extinction," Director Ye-jin said without hesitation. "They didn't just trade with our enemies. They actively helped murder our children." Approved. Admiral Sang-woo. Make it memorable. 3 days later, Admiral Sang-woo's fleet arrived at Mordun. The planet was beautiful from space, with blue oceans and white clouds. Cities glowed softly on the night side, and orbital stations moved peacefully around the world. The Morden government tried to negotiate. Their president, a creature called Velthara, appeared on the communication screen with tears in her large eyes. "Please," she begged. "We were only trading partners with the Vorthak. We didn't know they would use our weapons against civilians." Sang-Woo looked at her without emotion. "You supplied weapons to a species that planned to enslave humanity. You provided the delivery systems for biological weapons that murdered our children. Did you think there would be no consequences? We can make reparations. We can pay for the damage." "What could you possibly pay that would bring back 23 million dead humans?" "Please, there are children on this world. Innocent children who had nothing to do with the war. The human children you helped murder were innocent too." Sang-Woo's voice was like ice. "Your children should have thought about that before their parents decided to help commit genocide." The transmission ended. Sang-Woo turned to his weapons officer. "Begin planet cracker deployment." The human ships moved into position around Mordoon. But instead of simply destroying the world, they began something far worse. Massive machines descended from the ships and landed on the planet's surface. Within hours, the machines began to work. They didn't just destroy buildings or kill people. They rearranged matter itself, turning the planet's crust into twisted sculptures of metal and bone. Cities became monuments to human anger. Their buildings melted and reformed into shapes that hurt to look at. The Morden population tried to escape, but the human ships hunted down every refugee vessel. Those who made it to escape pods found themselves captured and forced to watch as their homeworld was slowly transformed into a work of art made from death and suffering. When the planet crackers finished their work, Morden no longer looked like a world where people had lived. Instead, it had become a massive sculpture visible from space, a twisted monument showing the agony of 12 billion beings, frozen forever in metal and stone. Admiral Sang-Woo broadcast a message to the galaxy. "This is what happens to species that help murder human children. Let Morden serve as a reminder that humanity does not forgive, does not forget, and does not show mercy to those who harm our young." On Earth, Director Ye Jin was already reviewing the next case. "The Sithkar Republic," she announced to the board. "They remained neutral during the Vorthak War," reported General So Young. "But they provided medical aid to Vorthak forces and allowed Vorthak ships to refuel in their space. Medical aid to our enemies," President Ji-won said slowly, "helping to heal the soldiers who were trying to enslave our children." The Sithkar claimed they were bound by their medical ethics to help wounded beings, regardless of species, Admiral Dong-Yun reported. "Medical ethics?" Director Ye Jin laughed coldly. "They helped heal the soldiers who were planning to murder every human in the galaxy, and they call it medical ethics?" "Recommendation?" Ji-won asked. "Extinction," Ye Jin replied. "But make it slower than Morden. They need time to think about their medical ethics while they die." The Sithkar Republic consisted of 47 worlds, each one populated by billions of peaceful, scholarly beings who prided themselves on their advanced medicine and philosophy. They had never fought a war, never conquered another species, never even raised their voices in anger. When the human fleets arrived at their worlds, the Sithkar leaders tried to explain their position. They had only helped wounded soldiers, they said. They had remained neutral in the conflict. They had done nothing wrong. Captain Mi-young, commanding the human fleet at the Sithkar capital world, listened to their pleas with perfect politeness. "I understand your position," she said to the Sithkar High Council. "You believe that healing wounded enemies is morally correct. You believe that neutrality protects you from consequences. Yes, replied Council Leader Morven. We follow the ancient principle that medical care should be provided to all beings, regardless of their politics or actions. Interesting principle, Mi-young said. Let me share one of our principles. Anyone who helps our enemies is our enemy. But we only provided medical care. You healed Vorthak soldiers so they could return to battle and kill more humans. You gave them fuel so their ships could reach our colonies and murder our children. You call it neutrality. We call it collaboration. The human ships deployed a new weapon, slow-acting constructor swarms that would take months to consume the Sith car. Worlds. The alien civilians watched in horror as their beautiful cities began to slowly dissolve, one building at a time. Why are you doing this so slowly? Morven asked during one of his daily communications with Captain Mi-young. Because you need time to think, she replied. Every day, as you watch your world die piece by piece, you can think about the human children who died because you helped their murderers. You can think about your medical ethics while you watch your own children suffer. Across the galaxy, other species watched the slow destruction of the Sith-Car Republic and learned a terrible lesson. There was no neutrality when humans decided you were their enemy. Director Yejin's new doctrine became known as guilt by association. Any species that had traded with the Vorthak, any government that had remained neutral during the war, any civilization that had failed to actively support humanity, was now marked for extinction. The Keltharan traders, who had sold food to Vorthak, colonies, found their merchant fleets hunted down by human warships. The Crystal Singers, who had provided entertainment for Vorthak soldiers, watched as their beautiful crystal cities were shattered by sonic weapons. The Ethereal Council, ancient beings of pure energy who had refused to take sides in any conflict, for 1,000,000 years, discovered that human weapons could kill even entities made of living light. One by one, civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were deleted from the galaxy. Some tried to fight back. Others tried to negotiate. A few attempted to hide in distant star systems. None of it mattered. The humans had decided that anyone who was not actively their friend was their enemy, and enemies of humanity became extinct. President Ji-wan addressed the galaxy after the 100th species had been eliminated. Let this be clear to every intelligent being among the stars. Humanity did not start this war. We offered friendship and received slavery. We offered peace and received genocide. We offered our hand in greeting and you chose to bite it. Her image appeared on every communication system in galactic space. Now you live in the world your choices created. Some of you chose to help our enemies. Some of you chose to remain neutral while our children were murdered. Some of you chose to look the other way while genocide was planned against our species. She paused, and the silence seemed to stretch across the entire galaxy. Those choices have consequences. We are those consequences. We are humanity, and we are the future of this galaxy. You may serve us, or you may join the extinct species who thought they could ignore us. The age of galactic civilization, with its proud councils and ancient federations, was over. In its place rose something new and terrible, a galaxy where one species decided who lived and who died, and that species had learned that mercy was a luxury they could not afford. The Extinction Protocol was not just a military strategy. It was humanity's promise to the galaxy: threaten our children, and we will erase you from existence. Help those who threaten our children, and we will erase you too. And across 1,000 worlds, intelligent beings learned to whisper the name humanity, with the same fear their ancestors had once reserved for death itself. Chancellor Young-woo stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on Earth, looking out at representatives from 300 surviving species. These were the lucky ones, the civilizations that had either actively helped humanity during the HFY War or had been quick enough to surrender when the extinctions began. "The old galactic order is dead," he announced to the gathered aliens. "Today, we establish the new order. Today, you learn what it means to live under human protection." The alien representatives sat in absolute silence. Some trembled. Others kept their eyes fixed on the floor. All of them knew they were in the presence of the most dangerous species in galactic history. "The galaxy is now divided into human protection zones," Jung-woo continued. "These zones will be administered by human officials, patrolled by human fleets, and governed by human law." Ambassador Kree-Thul of the Gentle Folk, a species of peaceful traders, raised one tentacle nervously. "Chancellor, what about our own governments? Our own laws?" Jung-woo looked at him with cold eyes. "Your governments exist because we allow them to exist. Your laws apply only when they don't conflict with human law. You are alive because we have decided you deserve to live. But our sovereignty—" "Your sovereignty?" Jung-woo's voice got colder. "Tell me, Ambassador, where was your sovereignty when the HFY planned to enslave every human child? Where was your independence when our colonies were being murdered with biological weapons?" Kree-Thul's tentacles curled in fear. We remained neutral. And because you remained neutral instead of helping murderers, you are alive today. Do not mistake survival for independence." Captain Mi-young entered the hall and approached the Chancellor's podium. She carried a datapad that contained the daily reports from across human space. "Sir," she said quietly, "the inspection fleets are ready for deployment." Jung-woo nodded and turned back to the alien assembly. "Ladies, gentlemen, and other beings, let me introduce you to the inspection protocol. Captain Mi-young leads fleets that will randomly visit your worlds to ensure compliance with human law." An alien representative from the Silicon Brotherhood spoke up. "What kind of compliance?" "Simple things," Mi-young replied with a smile that never reached her eyes. "No weapons development without human permission. No large gatherings without human supervision. No criticism of human governance in any form or medium." "Criticism?" The silicon being's crystalline body flashed nervous colors. "You mean we cannot express disagreement with human policies?" "You can express disagreement," Mi-young said pleasantly. "Once. The first time we detect anti-human sentiment on any world, we issue a warning. The second time, we orbital bombard the source of the criticism. The third time, we sterilize the entire planet." The alien representatives looked at each other in horror. Ambassador Velcris of the Storm Riders found the courage to speak. "This is tyranny. This is oppression." The hall fell absolutely silent. Every alien eye turned to Velcris, waiting to see what would happen to someone who dared to criticize humanity directly. Jung-woo walked slowly down from his podium until he stood directly in front of the Storm Rider representative. "Tyranny?" he asked quietly. "Oppression? Let me tell you about tyranny, Ambassador." He activated a holographic display that showed images from the HFY War. Dead human children, burned colonies, empty worlds where millions had lived. Tyranny is planning to enslave an entire species because you think they're inferior. Oppression is using biological weapons against civilian populations. This, he gestured around the assembly hall, this is justice. But you're forcing entire civilizations to submit to your will. Yes, we are, Jung-woo said simply, because the alternative is extinction. Every species in this room has a choice. Live under human protection, or join the 137 species that chose to oppose us. Velcris's feathers ruffled with fear. What happened to those species? They no longer exist. Their worlds are empty. Their names are forgotten. Their children are dead. Jung-woo's voice never changed tone. Would you prefer that option? No, Velcris whispered. Good. Then you understand the new order. Captain Mi-young stepped forward and began reading from her datapad. The inspection schedule has been randomized. Any world may receive a visit at any time. During inspections, human officials will review government records, monitor communications, and interview citizens. What are you looking for? Asked Ambassador Morthek of the Deep Dwellers. Signs of disloyalty, Mi-young replied. Anti-human sentiment, weapons development, secret communications with other worlds, planning of any kind that might threaten human interests. And if you find these things? Immediate orbital bombardment of the source. Complete sterilization if the problem appears to be widespread. The alien representatives absorbed this information in terrified silence. Finally, Ambassador Zeth Cole of the Star Wanderers asked the question they were all thinking. How long will this continue? When will we be free again? Jung-woo looked at him with something that might have been pity. Free? Ambassador, you were never free. When the Vorthak Empire ruled through fear and slavery, were you free? When the Celestial Federation ignored genocide and oppression, were you free? When ancient AIs decided the fate of entire species, were you free? But this is different. Yes, it is different. Under human rule, you are protected. Your species will survive as long as you follow our laws. Your children will live as long as they respect human authority. Your worlds will prosper as long as you remember who keeps you safe. Safe from what? Jung-woo smiled, and it was the most frightening expression the aliens had ever seen. Safe from us. He walked back to his podium and activated another display. This one showed star charts of the galaxy with vast regions marked in red. These are the dead zones, he announced. Former locations of species that chose to oppose humanity. Nothing lives there now. Nothing ever will live there again. We have turned them into monuments to the consequences of threatening human children. The red zones covered nearly a third of the galaxy. Hundreds of star systems, thousands of worlds, billions of potential lives, all marked as permanently uninhabitable. The rest of the galaxy, Jung-woo continued, exists under human protection. You pay tribute to maintain that protection. You follow our laws to keep that protection. You serve our interests to deserve that protection. Ambassador Krethul asked nervously, What kind of tribute? Captain Mi-young read from her list. Each world provides 1% of their population annually for service in human facilities. Raw materials as requested by human administrators, cultural artifacts for human museums, scientific research as directed by human oversight committees. 1% of our population? Velcris gasped. That's millions of beings. Yes, Mi-young said calmly. They will work in human factories, serve in human households, and maintain human installations. Consider it payment for the privilege of continued existence. This is slavery. No, Jung-woo corrected. Slavery is what the Vorthak planned for, humanity. This is tribute. This is the cost of protection. This is what it means to live in a galaxy where humans decide who deserves to survive. He activated a final display showing human fleets patrolling the space lanes, human stations orbiting, alien worlds, human officials in government buildings across the galaxy. The new galactic order is simple, he said. Humans protect, aliens serve, everyone lives, everyone prospers, everyone remembers that this peace exists because we allow it to exist. The alien representatives sat in stunned silence, absorbing the reality of their new existence. They were no longer independent civilizations. They were client states of humanity, existing only because they had been judged worthy of survival. "Are there any questions?" Young-woo asked politely. No one dared to speak. "Excellent. Your transport. Ships are waiting to take you back to your worlds. Remember to explain the new order to your people. Remember to make them understand that their continued existence depends on human satisfaction with their behavior." As the aliens filed out of the assembly hall, each one carrying the weight of their species' future, Captain Mi-young approached Chancellor Jung-woo. "Sir, the first inspection fleets launch tomorrow. Where should we begin?" Jung-woo looked out the window at the stars, each one now representing worlds that belong to humanity. "Begin with the species that hesitated longest before surrendering. They need to learn that hesitation has consequences. And if we find resistance, then we remind them why 300 species survived out of the original 437. We remind them that survival is a privilege we grant, not a right they possess." The new galactic order was not based on law or justice or democracy. It was based on a simple principle. Humanity had proven they could destroy anything that threatened them, and now the galaxy would live under their protection or not live at all. And across 1,000 worlds, alien children learned new words in their schools: tribute, inspection, compliance, and human protection. They learned that their lives depended on pleasing their human protectors, and that displeasure from humanity meant extinction. The galaxy had peace. It was the peace of the graveyard enforced by the most dangerous species ever to reach for the stars. 50 years had passed since the last shot of the HFY War was fired. Admiral In-ho stood on the observation deck of the UES Eternal Vigilance, watching the Memorial Fleet patrol through what had once been the heart of the Celestial Federation, where proud civilizations had once built mighty cities among the stars. Now only glass graveyards remained. The planets were still there, but they were empty monuments to human fury. Crystallized cities caught the light of distant suns, creating beautiful and terrible sculptures that could be seen from space. "Status report," In-ho ordered. Captain Taemin, a young officer who had been born after the war ended, approached with his daily briefing. "All memorial sectors remain secure, sir. No signs of intelligent life in any of the dead zones. The monuments are stable and will remain visible for approximately 10,000 years. In-ho nodded. "Good. The galaxy must never forget what happens when someone threatens human children." The memorial fleet consisted of ships that served as both guardians and reminders. They patrolled the empty systems where extinct species had once lived, ensuring that no one tried to resettle the dead worlds and that the monuments to human justice remained undisturbed. Taemin looked out at the crystallized remains of what had once been the planet Morden. "Sir, what was it like? The war, I mean. When it actually happened." In-ho was quiet for a long moment. He had been a young lieutenant when the Vorthak attacked Earth. He had seen the transition from humanity's first contact with aliens to humanity's dominion over the galaxy. "It was necessary," he said finally. "The galaxy was full of predators who saw humans as prey. We taught them they were wrong. But so many species chose to threaten us or help those who threatened us," Inho corrected. "Every extinction was a choice they made, not something we forced on them." On Earth, in the gleaming capital city of New Geneva, Ambassador Su Jin prepared for the annual Galactic Tribute Assembly. This was the most important day in the galactic calendar, when representatives from every surviving species traveled to Earth to renew their oaths of submission and present their yearly tribute to humanity. The Great Hall was a massive chamber that could hold 10,000 beings. Today, it held the representatives of 300 alien civilizations, each one carrying the hopes and fears of their entire species. Sujin walked to the podium and looked out at the assembled aliens. She was an old woman now, one of the last, humans alive who remembered the time before the war. She had seen the galaxy transformed from a place of danger into a place of order. "Welcome, friends and allies," she began, "to the 51st Annual Galactic Tribute Assembly." The alien representatives bowed as one. Their children had been taught from birth that humans were to be honored, respected, and obeyed without question. 51 years ago, Sujin continued, humanity took its first steps into the galaxy. We came in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. We were met with slavery, genocide, and biological weapons aimed at our children. The hall was absolutely silent. Even the youngest aliens present had been taught this history from the moment they could understand language. Today, the galaxy knows peace. Today, your children are safe. Today, your species prosper under human protection. This peace, this safety, this prosperity exists because we learned a simple truth. Mercy is a luxury that species like yours cannot afford. She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. 300 species living on thousands of worlds, all under human oversight. Trade flowed freely between worlds. Wars had been eliminated, and conflicts were resolved by human arbitrators. You live in the most peaceful era in galactic history, Sujin announced. Crime is at its lowest levels ever recorded. Wars between species have been eliminated. Slavery has been abolished except as punishment for crimes against humanity. Children across the galaxy sleep safely in their beds because human fleets patrol the darkness between stars. Ambassador Velthek of the Gentlefolk, whose species had survived because they had surrendered immediately when the extinctions began, rose to speak. Great Protector, he said, using the formal title that all aliens were required to use when addressing humans. We are grateful for the peace you have brought to the galaxy. Our species has prospered under your guidance. Thank you, Ambassador. Your people have been model citizens of the new order. The Gentlefolk serve as an example to other species of how cooperation with humanity benefits everyone. Ambassador Krelos of the Storm Riders spoke next. His species had originally criticized human governance and had watched 3 of their worlds turn to glass before they learned to keep their opinions to themselves. Great Protector, the Storm Riders, present this year's tribute with gratitude and respect. He gestured to a group of young aliens standing nearby. Our finest scholars, artists, and scientists, chosen to serve humanity for the honor of their species. Sujin nodded approvingly. The Storm Riders have learned wisdom. Your early resistance has been forgiven, and your current loyalty has been noted. One by one, the alien species presented their tributes. Raw materials from mining worlds, artistic treasures from creative civilizations, the finest young minds from academic species, all offered freely to their human protectors. As the ceremony continued, Sujin remembered the early days after the war, when some species had tried to resist human rule. Those species were gone now, their worlds empty, their names forbidden to be spoken. The survivors had learned the most important lesson in galactic history: obedience to humanity was the price of existence. Before we conclude today's assembly, Sujin announced, I want to share a message for any species that might be watching from hiding. The holographic display changed to show images of deep space, the vast emptiness between stars where fugitive civilizations might try to hide. We know you are out there, she said calmly. Species that fled when the extinctions began. Civilizations that thought they could hide in the dark between stars. Groups that believe they can wait for humanity to forget about them. The display showed human ships moving through empty space, their sensors scanning for any sign of hidden colonies or refugee fleets. You cannot hide forever. Our ships patrol every system. Our sensors reach into every corner of the galaxy. Our artificial minds never sleep, never forget, never stop searching. When we find you, and we will find you, you will have two choices. Join the protected species and accept human authority, or join the extinct species in our memorial graveyards. She paused to let the message sink in. Hiding is not neutrality. Hiding is resistance. And we all know what happens to species that resist humanity. In the audience, Ambassador Morthek of the Deep Dwellers shivered. His people had briefly considered fleeing to the galactic rim when the human expansion began. Fortunately, wiser minds had prevailed, and they had chosen submission instead of extinction. There is no shame in survival, Sujin continued as, if reading his thoughts. There is no dishonor in accepting protection from a stronger species. Your ancestors made the right choice when they submitted to human authority. Your children live because of that choice. Captain Yan Su of the Inspection Service stepped forward and whispered something in Sujin's ear. The ambassador's expression didn't change, but those who knew her well could see a slight tightening around her eyes. I have just received word, Sujin announced, that Inspection Fleet 7 has discovered a hidden colony in the Outer Rim. The Takari Resistance, a group that fled from human space 12 years ago, has been found attempting to build a new civilization on an uncharted world. The alien representatives held their breath. Everyone knew what discovery meant for hidden species. The Takari. Resistance consisted of approximately 50,000 individuals from various species who refused to accept human protection. They believed they could build a new society beyond our reach. Sujin's voice remained calm and professional. They were wrong. The holographic display showed images from the inspection fleet. A beautiful world with new cities and growing farms. Takari families working together to build something free from human oversight. Children playing in alien sunshine, innocent of the doom approaching their world. The colony has been sterilized, Sujin reported simply. 50,000 beings who chose resistance over survival. Their world has been marked as another memorial to the consequences of defying human authority. The silence in the Great Hall was absolute. Some of the alien representatives had relatives who had fled with the Takari resistance. Now they knew those relatives were dead, their dreams of freedom turned to ash by human weapons. Let this remind us all, Sujin said, that there is nowhere in this galaxy beyond human reach. There is no freedom except the freedom we grant. There is no survival except under our protection. Young Ambassador Kethlin of the Silver Singers, barely old enough to attend the assembly, found the courage to speak. Great Protector, will there ever be a time when our species can govern themselves again? When we can be truly free? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Several older ambassadors looked at the young Silver Singer with horror, certain that he had just condemned his entire species to extinction. But Sujin smiled, and it was not an unkind expression. Young